Hello everyone! Today I'll be taking part in Mermay. I found this operetta doll on eBay. I was trying to find a doll with either one or both legs missing, and I managed to find this one with a leg missing. Which means I do need to rip off the other leg and the rest of her upper leg. This was much harder than I first thought it was going to be. The joints connecting the legs are made of plastic. The older versions were made of elastic, which honestly would have been easier because I could have just cut it. But I had to weaken the plastic around it and eventually got them all ripped off. Getting her lower leg off was much easier, but getting the rest of it off without the extra leverage was, way harder. I spent a good maybe hour and a half, 2 hours, using tension to try and break her legs off. I got the rest of her legs off and take her head off in a flawless transition. Then put them all in my spare parts bag. I'm not going to be using her head for this project. I ordered a Laguna head, but at the time of filming this, it wasn't here yet, so I should start working on the body. Operetta has this indented design going up her neck, down part of her back and shoulder, so I need to fill it in with clay. I make sure to make the layers very thin, which you cannot see because it's out of frame. Love finding out that all footage is out of frame. I make sure to get back into frame before I keep going. And at this point, she's looking great. Such a great doll. This is a great start. For this next part, I put a mask on because I'm going to be sanding off her boobs. Because in my mind, fish don't have boobs, so neither do mermaids. And I don't have a Dremel tool, so I need to do this the old-fashioned way. After sanding down her bust as much as I can, I cover all the rough spots in clay, which, was the whole chest. It helps smooth things out easier. Now I can give the entire thing a base coat of white, but I'm not going to paint it the actual color it's going to be yet. This is just the base coat for now. I hang her up to dry, and now that the Laguna head arrived, I can work on it now. It's actually in really good condition, save for the base of the head being covered in glue. Now I can get back to the usual of using my fabric scissors to cut her hair off. Once all that's off and I've thrown the hair away, I use a pair of needle nose pliers to drag all of the chains out. Since I'm going to be painting over her anyway, I don't use acetone to get her face off, I just paint over it. Like with the body, I set it aside and take out some wire because I'm going to be making the tail now. Now I just need to measure out the wire. I also bend the fins in at this point while I'm doing it because if it's connected to the main structure, it's going to be a lot stronger. I drew out the shapes I wanted for the fins on the end of her tail and just shaped those out of wire separately. After a bunch of finagling, I finally have these 3 pieces. I attach them onto the main piece by weaving the wires through it, and also using a bunch of tape. Once they're all connected, I put it on a piece of fabric and trace around it. I use a ladder stitch to connect the 2 pieces. I would have done it with a back stitch and then turned it inside out, but I need to sew this over the wire and I can't fit it through once it's together. So I put the fabric over it and make sure it all lines up. Once I finish the fin part, I stuff it. I continue this going up the rest of the tail, sewing a piece of it and then stuffing it. The top fins didn't come out exactly how I wanted them to, so I figured I would add some flair. I cut these 2 pieces out of fabric, they're just going to be the 2D pieces, and I sew them on. Then I just need to attach the body, which I use hot glue for. In order to make the transition from tail to body a little less awkward, I try adding some clay. This will end up being a permanent addition, and I'm still not quite sure if it was a mistake or not. I whipped up a color scheme that I liked, and drew it digitally before I actually started painting it, because, you know, I only have one shot at this unless I want to start all over. I start on the bottom fins, painting blue, then purple, then orange, fading into each other. And in case you're wondering, yes, I did put purple and orange together, and no, I did not remember at the time that they're almost complementary colors, so when I tried to blend them, it turned out almost a muddy brown. But I added a little more paint over it and it managed to save it. I do this with the 3 fins on the bottom before moving up to the top 4 fins too, and doing the exact same thing. Although on the little flaps things, I don't paint anything on them yet. You can't see it here, but the yellow paint I'm using is actually darker than the fabric, so I painted along the base of the tail and along those fins as a small gradient. And it's what I'm painting the body to, but we'll get to that in a bit. I paint these orange scales on, going from the base of the tail up, and it sort of like fades out. Then I finally start painting the body yellow. It took forever to be able to get up to this point. And if you can see me painting the forearms yellow here, ignore that because immediately afterward I painted orange, since I didn't want the body to just be a solid yellow. I thought that would be a bit boring. I paint her face yellow, and I'm sorry about the white paint completely blowing out my camera. I tried to fix it, but there's not much I can do there. Then I paint her scalp purple for her hair later. I usually do the face up first, so this is pretty odd for me. I blush her face with orange, you know, to continue on the gradient. Then for her eyes, I just put a base coat of white, and I make one eye a lighter blue with darker blue around it, and the other eye is the exact opposite, a darker blue with a lighter blue around it. Off camera, I do the little dots for her eyebrows and paint her lips a lighter yellow, which you can't see on camera. The final touch on her face is some little freckles, which I also do in orange. I really like the look of freckles. I do not do them as often as I probably should. For her hair, I have this really nice purple yarn that I haven't used in a while. I think you'll remember the last doll I used it on if you watched that video. First, I glue the wefts on in a circle around her head, then down a middle part, and then filling in that part. For her hair, I just cut it short and flipped it inward. The last thing I'm going to add is something to cover up a little rough area around the transition. So I take this piece of fabric here, gather up the top of it, and basically just glue it onto her since I don't really want this coming off. And she's done. I would like you to meet Nixie, the mermaid. Though she's definitely not going to be blending into anything